Hello friends, welcome to the Plant Science Forum. Today we are going to discuss a brief introduction to respiration. So in this discussion we will try to answer these questions. What is respiration? Where does it happens? What are the types of respiration? What happens in respiration? What are the products of respiration? And what is the significance of respiration? So let's discuss first point. All living organism requires energy to carry out life processes. As you can see in this diagram here, this is the light energy, that means ultimately it is the sun, and this is the chloroplast where actually photosynthesis happens. This chloroplast, there is a thylakoid. The thylakoid absorbs light energy and converts carbon dioxide and water molecule into the carbohydrates. So this is the food or carbohydrate molecule which is synthesized by the plants with the help of chloroplast. Now the energy is obtained by oxidation of this food material. This process in which a living organism involves the production of energy with the intake of oxygen and release of carbon dioxide from the oxidation of complex organic substances is called as respiration. Here the complex organic substances is nothing but the sucrose and starch which is present in the plants, and for this process requirement of oxygen is mandatory. This process, if you look at it, it is just a reverse of photosynthesis, because in photosynthesis it requires carbon dioxide and water and it releases oxygen, but in case of respiration oxygen is intake and carbon dioxide is released. So cellular processes get energy from the ATP. By the oxidation of complex organic substances, ATP is formed, and this ATP is called as the energy currency of the cell. Now the next question is, where does it actually happen? So whole this process of respiration, this cellular respiration occurs in the mitochondria, but the initial step of respiration, that is glycolysis, this glycolysis happens in cytoplasm of the cell, and after the glycolysis the next step of the respiration that occurs in the mitochondria. Now, there are actually two types of respiration. The one is in which there is no need of oxygen, and in another there is a need of oxygen. If you look at this diagram, just a brief, glucose is nothing but the complex organic substance. Just take example, glucose is the simplest carbohydrate material, but let's discuss that the process has been started from the carbohydrate material. Glucose undergoes the process of glycolysis. Glycolysis means breakdown of glucose, and the final product of the glycolysis is the pyruvate. Now when there is a formation of pyruvate, at that time cell looks for the presence of oxygen or the absence of oxygen. If the oxygen is absent, then anaerobic respiration will be carried out, and that also in cytoplasm itself. In the process of anaerobic respiration is nothing but the fermentation process, and the product of this anaerobic respiration is lactic acid, alcohol and carbon dioxide. So this is the condition when oxygen is actually absent. In another case, when oxygen is present, everybody knows that oxygen is very much essential for the process of respiration, and when the oxygen is present, the cell carried out aerobic respiration. The first step of respiration is glycolysis, which happens in cytoplasm, and after that, with the presence of oxygen, the cell starts aerobic respiration. In that, the first step is Krebs cycle, which occurs in the matrix of mitochondria, and the next following step is electron transport chain, which happens in on the cristae of mitochondria, that is the inner membrane of mitochondria. Now let's see overall what happens in respiration. Actually these are two near about same diagram explaining the same thing. Let's see. So first look at here, storage or phloem transport. That means in the plants the transporting form of sugar is the sucrose, whereas the storage form of sugar is the starch. Now whatever may be the case, the starch is a polymer and sucrose is a dimer. Whatever may be the case, there is a oxidation of the polymeric substances and it will form a simpler compound for ongoing into the process. Now let's say a sucrose is formed. After the sucrose there is a formation of hexose phosphate. Hexose phosphate means 6 carbon sugar which has phosphate attached. Now it will be oxidized to form a triose phosphate and then it will form an organic acid such as pyruvic acid. All these steps they are interlinked with each another. So sucrose is degraded, it forms as hexose phosphate, then triose phosphate and ultimately pyruvic acid. So this complete step, this is nothing but the glycolysis. And after that, after the completion of glycolysis, the organic acid pyruvate, subsequently the product of the complete reaction and the interlinking step, they enter into the matrix of mitochondria. And in the matrix of mitochondria there is a Krebs cycle, or you can say citric acid cycle or tricarboxylic acid cycle. And the product of tricarboxylic acid cycle, this TCA cycle products is NADH and FADH2. Now they will enter into the next phase of respiration, that is electron transport chain. And in the electron transport chain, the ultimate product is ATP, that is energy currency of the cell. All these processes they are interlinked with each another. There are many metabolic pathways and the metabolic biomolecule pool which are interlinked to each another. As you can see here, as this is the plastid is shown, a pentose phosphate pathway, it is linked with glycolysis pathway by the formation of starch, hexose and triose phosphate. Likewise, see in another diagram, here you can see the same pentose phosphate pathway and this is linked to hexose phosphate and triose phosphate pool, and after that the intermediates of the various chemical reaction they are also interlinked with the glycolysis steps, and the final product of glycolysis it enters into the matrix of mitochondria where Krebs cycle happens, and the product of Krebs cycle they are linked to electron transport chain where actually a final product of respiration, that is ATP, forms. Now if we look at the various products of the respiration, so then it is clear that the ultimate product of respiration is nothing but the ATP molecule. So it depends upon the what metabolic pathway and intermediate it operates. On that basis there is a formation of either 36 ATP or 38 ATP, but in aerobic condition. But if there is an absence of oxygen after the glycolysis step, then it will follow anaerobic respiration pathway, that is a fermentation pathway, and in this case the products are carbon dioxide, ethanol and only 2 ATPs. So respiration is associated with various carbon metabolic processes which releases energy stored in the carbon compounds, and it releases in a stepwise controlled manner. So it generates many carbon precursor for various biosynthetic processes. Now there are many significance for the respiratory process. It is the energy releasing and energy supplying process in all the living organisms. It releases the energy in a controlled and stepwise manner so that it can get properly utilized. So various intermediates which are products of glycolysis and Krebs cycle, they are used in the biosynthesis of other complex organic compounds in various cell metabolic pathways. So photosynthesis and respiration they are complementary to each other, because in photosynthesis it intakes a carbon dioxide and water molecules and it will form a carbohydrate and release oxygen, whereas in reverse to this, in respiration it intakes oxygen and it releases carbon dioxide. The product of photosynthesis is carbohydrate and the substrate for respiration is carbohydrate with the help of oxygen. So they are complementary to each other. Photosynthesis form carbohydrate and respiration oxidize carbohydrate to release energy or say ATP. So fermentation is a type of anaerobic respiration which is helpful in industrial production of various useful products such as alcohol, antibiotics, vitamins, organic acid, bakery, and various dairy products. So this is overall a significance of respiratory processes. I hope you understood such a brief introduction of respiration, why it happens and what are the significance and where actually it happens. So here we conclude a brief introduction to respiration. If you like the contents of this video, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you.